thing they're doing is set up for you to give them and do what they want you to do. That's what that is. Okay. Sacred commodification, selling blessings, miracles, or access to spiritual experiences risks turning faith into transactional products. And this is what we see a lot of, because a lot of folks, to get delivered, to get healed, to get demons cast out, you got to pay for a book or pay for a teaching, pay for this, pay for that, pay for that. And a lot of people who need it don't get it because they got to pay for it. Now, I know everybody had to give something. Exactly. I get that. But Jesus didn't go around just asking people for money for for to be healed and whole. So I am at a crossroads with this. I mean, whenever Christ went somewhere, everybody was healed, whole, he fed them, all of that, and he didn't ask anybody for any finances. So I am at a, like I said, God, because I don't want to not be able to help because a person doesn't have the finances. So it's like it's a crossroad. It's like a in between situation for me, because although I myself, because God rewards you publicly for what you do in private. Let's say a person is out here giving out of their own pockets to the homeless, or people on the street, and nobody knows. They're just doing it. Why? Because they have a heart for people, or wherever they are, they're just trying to be a blessing at work, at home. These are the people who may be just regular people who do not have the finances like that. God sees it, but because no one knows it, it's between them and God. That's cool. But at the same token, you see what I'm saying? They would love to do more, but they can only do with what they have. And the need is so great. It is a great need. And it's hard to deal with disproportionate people, because a lot of them tend to have a lot of issues. It's more than just a financial thing. It's a mental thing. It's an emotional thing. It's a physical thing. More than anything, it is a spiritual thing. Because remember, to be poverty stricken, all these things, these are curses. These are something they are not doing right in their lives, as well as they're being disobedient to God, along with other things that they may have throughout their bloodline. So, and they may or may not know of these things. And this is the sad part and the sad realities of it. And a lot of them do, be on drugs to cope. A lot of them do, be on lying, cheating, stealing, selling drugs, whatever, to get some type of happiness, joy in life. So they're seeking, relief. And it's hard for them to even deal, with life, to get up every day out of their bed, or if they're out on the street, whatever. And it's a sad situation, but it's like, how do you go about doing these things? And then you see the ones who do have it, and they do help. I'm not going to say all churches don't help, because there's a lot of them out there. And I would say a lot of the smaller ones and smaller communities, they try to help more. But when you see churches on every corner and, there's more shooting and drugging and all, you kind of wonder what is going on. Because as a nonprofit, they ask you the questions of how you're going to build the community, how you're going to grow the community. What is it going to do for jobs in the community? I know this because when I was doing grants and I was trying to do grant writing years ago, this is what that was all about. So it's like, I know that they have the board and they have this, and they have to submit the proposal and do, get the funding, get an amount, get a secure location, all of these things. I already know about all these things. Everybody ain't stupid, everybody ain't dumb, and everybody ain't slow. I may not be where I want to be in life, but I was doing these things, I would say 20 plus years ago. My kids were small. I think I had my twins. So we talking about 20, 25 years ago is when I was trying to get into all these things. Wanting to write a book, want to do all these things. These are things outside of writing a book, having my own businesses. These are things that I was trying to do way before folks was, getting out here doing things. I was already trying to do these things myself, but I just never had any back and any good luck with it. I wanted folks to come in and help me, because you can't do everything yourself. So you have to have a stable, people that will help you, be there to do things for your situation to grow. I remember one time I wanted to do a daycare. Why? Because we all needed, and I was going to take the class, do everything they wanted us to do to get the daycare running. Downstairs in the house we were living in, my landlord, I was trying to get that location because no one was living in. It was set up like office, and it would have been a great ideal situation. And because we didn't have babysitters, me, my sisters, and them, I wanted us to do it together. But like I say, when it comes to certain things, it didn't work out because the way I had it set up, we could have done some things together and it all would have been, but because it was me or because they weren't in charge or because whatever the situation was, nobody wanted to do it. So I was like, okay, cool. This is why when you start wanting to do things for yourself, it's like you look at people and they want you to support them. But when they don't support you or never have, it's like that's when it becomes an issue. Because if you want support, you got to give support. So, but if I hadn't started that daycare then, my plan was to start one. We all get one. We all move. We all, why? Because everybody needs daycare. You down there, daycare's hard situations. You could, it would have been a good situation for all of us. But like I said, only God knows what that was about. I did 5 lanes, ACN, and what was the other one? Mary Kay. So it was certain things. So I'm not into this just jumping into things because, you pay your money, you get it, and then you don't know something. And then that'll be the one thing you be done paid all this money, did all this stuff, and that one thing they did not tell you would be the main thing you needed to know because now you're stuck. I'm not doing pyramid schemes. I'm not doing any of those type of things. No. When they say it's a business, it's not a business. It's just you are independent contractor, all these type of things, because they use these words to manipulate, to draw people in, to have them, pay up front, and then they have to deal with the stuff later. That in itself, no. I'm not about to, because then that's you building someone else, and whether you make, because you done paid your money for whatever product, whatever, it's up to you to sell it. So if nobody buys your stuff and nobody does, then you're just out of your money. See, these type of situations, I don't want to do that. You see what I'm saying? Those are not situations that I want to do. And especially when you don't have the finances to, go to all of these things. I remember when Mary Kay, we had to pay to go through all of these things, and I put up $4,000 to become. I had my website, got my products, had my little suit, my little badge, my little tote bags, and all these things with all these products. Honey, all that product ended up sitting in my house. I'm trying to sell it. Nobody wants to buy it. All these type of things. When I tell you, it was just... But now they want me to continue to buy product, to go to their meetings, to do this, to do that. I'm like, with what? I told y'all in the beginning when I spent this money, this was all I had. So whatever I needed to know, you should have told me in the beginning, because I could have known then if this would have been a choice. But see, when people, it's all about them and making money, because that $4,000 I spent, they get their money off of that. Regardless if I made anything, I'm coming up under them. They make. This is why I don't like to do business. People want you to be thirsty and desperate so that they can benefit. And whether you get anything out of it or not, that's just your loss. You should have known. No, it's not that you should have known. You should have told me, because that would have made the difference. But then they will call that business. Now, if I'm your friend or I'm somebody that knows you and I'm getting you into this stuff and I know this is this way, like I said, being business-minded, being cutthroat, the person wouldn't tell you. A person like me, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you know I went through X, Y, Z. So now it's up to you if you want to do it. Because now that doesn't make me gain any money. It does not. I will not make any money, because it's up to you if you're going to do this or if you're not. So like I said, I see a lot of people on here with a lot of stuff. I'm not with the trying to, no, I'm not desperate. I'm not caught up. No, because I've been in, I've done that. And being desperate, whether it's for relationships, whether it's for finances, this is how we end up in situations. We have to wait on God to do it, because going ahead of God and doing things, it will mess us up. It will have us in a bind. It will have us, on the street with nothing. Our money, the money you could have used for something else. You see what I'm saying? Instead of using it for something else, you use it for that. So now, you misappropriated your funds. This is why I said, and God doesn't like it when you're not a good steward with your funds either. So these are things that, you know what I'm saying? So the idea of true religion at its core is meant to be sacred covenant, not a commercial exchange. It calls for service, sacrifice, and stewardship. Non-profit, right? But when spiritual governance is misaligned, the temple can become a marketplace. Exactly. And it says, would you like to explore how the distinction plays out in biblical narratives like Jesus cleansing the temple, or the esoteric traditions that warn against spiritual commodification? So That is what I want to discuss. That is something that is very big, that is very major, it is very rampant, running around. But God does see that as well. He sees all of these things that are being practiced. And it's really usually on the end of the poor who either don't know because they're not well informed. We see that with everything they teach us. Teach us all these biblical principles. Where's the financial planning? When I talk about with that, I'm talking about in school. I'm talking about everywhere. They teach us everything but what to do to be empowered. They teach you just enough for you them to get what they want from you, for you to never move forward, never be better, never be one, and because that's not the goal. The goal is for them to stay on top of you, for you to be underneath them, to never rise, to never be equal or better. And this is where this world is. When we look at government, politics, when we look at anything. And if you are, it's because you have to do an exchange. And then the exchange, depending on what it is that they want you to do, will be the only way that you will move forward. Why? Because the gatekeepers are there in every arena, in every diaspora of this world and in life. The gatekeepers, they are going to block who move forward from who stay where they are. This is what this is all about. Now, God is not with this. That is manipulation, that is control, that is lies, that is deceit. All of these things, that is what that is. We can sugarcoat it, we can word it however we want to, because people love to use words and wording to trick people. This is what this is all about. But the bottom line is, it's lies, it's deceit, it's manipulation, it's witchcraft. This is warfare. Why? This is why when you come out of school and you have a degree in your hand, you still may or may not get a job. Because at the end of the day, there's so many factors into you being able to acquire a job. Now, mind you, you done spend all this money at these institutions. They telling you do this, you're going to... Okay, but when you look at they put these so-called... how much, the occupational handbook or whatever, they put how much you're supposed to make and all these things, okay, because when, me and my kids, I've always been trying, and I can only teach them as much as what I knew, and I tried to know and keep as breast as much as I could, but when you want to know, you got to pay, to go back to school, or now that we have the internet, it's a lot more that we can look up and a lot more that we can do, I must say that. And I tried to teach them basically, but the world that I knew is gone. That world is gone. So trying to navigate them in life now of moving forward is really hard. I myself am struggling because they're changing things. Things are elevating. They're, the technology, the knowledge of what they're doing, the different things, it changes so fast. You could be going to school for this. They be then outdated that. They got rid of that. Now they got this. And now you got to go back for that in order to get a job doing it. See, this is what I'm saying. And when these people are the ones with the rules, they're the ones making all the rules, the laws, they change them when they feel like it. And they do that because they want to stay ahead. They never want you to catch up. They never want you to be equal. They never want you to have or know what they know, because they always want to be empowered and in charge. So this is what this is all about. Okay, so let's not be stupid. Let's not be, this is what this is all about. And we have to know that dangling a carrot in front of people, like I said, this is like being sitting on a donkey, having a carrot on the line and dangling in front, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of these things. The American so-called dream is what it is. People come here from all over thinking they're just going to come here, get rich, be millionaires overnight because they see. And then when they get here and they find out that America is not what they thought it was, or they go to other places and they see it's not. Why? Because there's always little things that you don't know about. And this is what this, and doing research, I tell people research all the time because I've moved all over the place. I have lived upstate New York, I have lived in Las Vegas, I have lived in South Carolina, I have lived in Georgia, and I have lived in New York, which is my origin. But I tell you, each place is different. It has its own ups, downs, ins, outs, and this is what it is. Okay? And you don't really know all of what's there until you get there, and you just try to make the best of what you're doing when you're doing it. I moved away a lot because being away from folks was, I felt like I did better when I was away. But then at the same token, it was a trade-off because I really didn't have a whole lot of, I would say, support, like support systems. But then when I was home, it was still the same. So it really didn't matter. But to that extent. Like I still, even when I was around people, it's not like they was really, doing any type of babysitting or anything that the support system still just was not there. So everything was basically solely on me, or if I met friends or whatever, when I got there. So that's basically what that was. But anyway, so I just, and like I said, we have to think about these things in the mental capacity, in the emotional capacity, in the physical, the financial, and the spiritual realm, because these are where the breakdowns are when it comes to human beings. And this is why they go shoot at people, kill people, jumping off bridges, killing themselves. This is why the depression, this discouragement, all of these things, they have to have something to hold on and hold faith, something. This is where Jesus comes in. This is where that thing that is not just sitting there, the portion that nobody sees, that makes the biggest difference in the world of having favor or not having favor in your life, walking with Christ or not walking with Christ. This is where this is going to all come in at. And we're not going to sit here and say, because like I said, if I was to just do off testimony, if I was to tell my story, whether I was saved and walking with the Lord or not, it would still look about the same, because of the fact that it didn't matter. It was not the fact that I wasn't going to go through trial and tribulations on either end. It was just what was going to be the outcome, what was going to be my bottom line decisions, where was my alliances, my loyalty, where was my mindset, my relationship when it came to God and what I was doing, because God doesn't work on our time. He works on his. And a lot of people, when they get saved, think that once they leave from in the world, that they hit the jackpot and everything's just going to be so wonderful, and they don't understand that they go on the devil's hit list. And that's when the total opposite will start to happen, until you start to get to a place where, you know what I'm saying, things will start to, you're going to have your good and bad on either diaspora. But the difference is knowing you're going to have salvation, knowing that when you leave here, you're going to go to a better place. You're not going to go to hell's fire. And know that you're going to make a difference. You're going to, know who you are. God's going to reveal himself to you and all these other things. You're going to finish your purpose and assignment, whatever you were put here to do. God's going to reveal himself and let him see and know who you are. He's going to love you in spite of you, whether anyone's there or not. He's going to be there. He's going to keep you in your right mind, your life, your health, your strength. This is where this come in. When people say, oh, I don't know how she made it. God, baby, God. Because if it wasn't for him, with everything I've been through, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be having conversations with people. Why? Because I'd have been going a long time ago. It was God who kept me in the midst of it all. Jesus kept me, honey. The wave offering and the heave offering are sacred gestures embedded in the Levitical sacrificial system, ritual acts that symbolize dedication, elevation, and divine acknowledgement. Though they often involve the same physical items like portions of meat or grain, their movements and meanings differ. So this is what I was talking about, the wave offering. The wave offering is the gesture the priest waves the offering back and forth, often horizontally. Is called the tenufa. And the symbolism represents presentation before God as if offering it in all directions, acknowledging that the gift comes from God and is returned to him. Okay. Usage applied to the first fruits, peace offerings, and consecration rites. Wow. Leviticus 7:30, Exodus 29:24. First fruits, when we talk about the first fruits offering. Peace offerings and consecration rites. I don't know. We're going to have to get into those. This video has gotten really, really long. Excuse me. And I guess the more I get into it, the more it's going to reveal some of these things. But I wanted to look up. I am not going to keep going because this video is kind of long. In priestly ordination, parts of the sacrifice are waved to signify transfer of authority. Wow. Right? Because he's over us. He's in authority. It's him. The heave offering teruma, gesture the offering is lifted upward, then lowered, emphasizing vertical movement. Symbolism represents elevation to God, a gesture of exaltation and surrender. Often denotes a portion set apart for priestly use. Usage is applied to tithes, the grain offering, sacrificial portions, right? Okay, and the right thigh of peace offerings was a heave offering given to the priest. Okay. Shared things. Both are acts, ritual, choreography, making the invisible visible. The mark, the transition from common to sacred, okay, from human to divine. They reflect gratitude, consecration, and covenant alignment. In mystical traditions, these gestures mirror cosmic movements. The wave reflects the horizontal plane, human interaction, communal offering. The heave reflects vertical. Oh, these are the other stuff. divine ascent, spiritual elevation. Together they form a cross-shaped motion, a prophetic foreshadowing a sacrificial redemption. Would you like to explore how these offerings relate to spiritual gifts, priestly garments, and the architecture of the tabernacle? I would love to do. Listen, it'd be so much on here. Now, in particular to this, I know that they have what they call it. I think they call it alchemy or something. And I know frequency and different things. I know that those things, because people use these things, chakras and all these other things. I know that they are a part of the world, but the way that they use them, okay, whether it's with the 808s, I think that's the frequency with the music, whatever it is, the sounds, those are valid situations, but the way that people use them, and this is the portion that I wanted to, the way that they're using them is not the biblical principle way. It is the demonic way. And this is why, although these things are factual, actual things that God created. And of course, when it comes to finances, when it comes to what we need to search more, God also says when it comes to knowledge, be careful because, knowing too much, getting tricked. This is what happened with Eve. She wanted to know too much. She wanted the devil switched words with her. See how that goes? This has been going on from way back when. He lied to her, manipulated her, switched the words out, and got her to sin. See? So we got to be careful when we're dabbling into getting too far off because we can leave the beaten path of where God has us and get out there into the place of being way off, as sheep over somewhere where there's nothing but a den of lions and thieves and snakes waiting on us, because that's where they wanted us to go, away from the protection of God, out of his circumference, out of his rules, his protection, so once you leave off and you go off that, then that's how you end up in some stuff, and that's how God ends up having to come save you, because you done walked off the beaten path. You done went somewhere God didn't tell you to go, got knowledge and stuff that you weren't supposed to get. Don't understand it. People that lied and tricked and told you their version of it. They then manipulated you. They got you to believe in it their way and what they telling you, and this is right. And then now in your mind, because you never heard of it, you never knew it. So now this is the real deal because you ain't never, it's awakening. Not really. It's just something somebody told you and it's something new to you. And we only can go by what we know. And because when people tell us something new and it awaken us, we think that's why we can't look to the people. We can't look. No, we have to look to God. It is wonderful to get information. We have to check the spirit, like they say. Ask God, ask the spirit, look at the fruits, look at what they got going on. And, ask God, like, what is this? What is going on here? So like I said, I try my best to discuss the issues and the situations. I don't want to get too far into one or the other. I do want to address all of the arguments, all of these situations, being, giving the what God said about it, in the situation, meaning if he says, well, the trespasses be passed down, he did, but then he said not necessarily, because then in all actuality we all pay for our own sins. But in some situations, especially when it comes to the children, we are accountable for our children when they up until a certain age. So we have to look into it. You see what I'm saying? And when it's talking about after Christ, right? Because what was before Christ and what's after Christ in the Bible, this is so what we're going by based off what they went by before Christ and then what was going on now. So this is all before Christ, but this is what they were using, meaning before Christ came. So this is all Old Testament. Now, we don't just throw away the Old Testament because he came to fulfill the law. So we don't throw it away because we're still going to be judged based on these things. Don't think that we're not. He came to fulfill it so that we could walk it out. What meaning? So now we can live it because we weren't able to fill it on our own. But as long as we have Christ, it will be fulfilled as long as we're walking with him. And that's what makes the difference. So with all these other religions, this without Christ. So this is not fulfilled. They can't fulfill this. Only Christ's blood can fulfill this. So if you're walking with Buddha, you're walking with anyone else, that's not Christ's blood covering that. So that's not fulfilled. So you're going to be, treated as if Christ is not there. Wages of sin is death. So you automatically will go to hell. Why? Because you can't fulfill this without Christ on your own. This is why he died. So there will be no reason for Christ. If you could fulfill it, there will be no reason for the death, hell, resurrection. There will be no need for that. So because there was need for it, and we can't get to God without it, he's the gap. He's going to bridge us. He's the way, the truth, and the light. Without him, no one can get to the Father. So you have to come through Christ. If you go any other way, this is not paid. None of this is satisfied. It's not there. As you see, everything they were doing, they had to make payment, restitution, atonement, pay the debt. So without Christ, it's not paid. So any other religion that you're involved in, I don't care if they take 1,000,001 scriptures, I don't care what they're doing. If it's not about Christ, because they love to mix and they love to confuse and make people confused and tricked and not knowing, this is what the devil does. So you need to investigate what are the principles, investigate it. If it's not about Christ, meaning if it's not the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, if it's about chakras, if it's about all these other principalities and things, no, it is no. These deities, these goddesses, because I want to get into that eventually too, about all of the Egyptian gods and what they look like and their names and what their actual was, with what they represented, right? Because then you will see. And when you look at the flags all over the world and you see how a lot of them are the same symbols, that was that Babylonian, Egyptian stuff. This is why God destroyed them. Okay, got us away from them and their ways, which was slavery, which was poverty, which was debt, which was killing, which was sacrificing or us. Yes, this is what, but then we are worshiping these deities. So then when you get what they represent, which is slavery and the killing of and this, you can't be complaining, because that is what you signed up and you agreed and went into covenant with, because that's what you believe in, whatever was taught to you about these situations. That's how your life is set up. You're sacrificing your mind, your soul, your body. When you follow them, the altar, you the sacrifice, you're the covenant. You entered into it, you agreed to it, you mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually tied into it because you gave your whole self up for it, and you're not associated with anything godly. So this is your God. So that's when it becomes your God. Then that is where you will become the end of time. This is not no in-between situation. You see what I'm saying? God makes it plain. So either you're going to seek, knock, and find for yourself what you need to know about what you're worshiping, the Pilates, the yoga, the secret societies. What are their rooted in? They're everyone has what they call them, the things that they the core values of their. Look that up and see exactly what them core values are. Because they mix a lot of stuff. Like you see, even with the church, even with the tithe, even with the nonprofit, all this stuff, the mixing. And this is what the devil does. He mixes, he confuses, he tricks, he lies, he steals. This is how it manipulates. This is how. Because you have free will. But if you're confused, you don't really know, you will get tricked. That's the thing. You was lied to. You was told all of these things about this situation. The main thing you needed to know, you didn't know. So you entered in, and then now it's a different situation, right? But that was intentional, because they wouldn't tell you the truth. The reason they didn't want to tell you the truth is because whatever they knew you wouldn't go along with it if they told you the truth. So they had to lure you in. Either you desperate for money, you're desperate for this, to move forward. They the gatekeepers. You're not going to move any further unless they got the boulets to do that in the black society, the secret societies. It's a house nigga, feel nigga, because you got a couple more trinkets. You think you're doing better. You think no, but you still in the same situation. It is still the same. You're still ruled and governed by. It doesn't matter if you in the White House or you in the Poe House. You're still ruled by the same people. The same spirits. And they mean you no good. They don't. The only way you're going to get out of this and get out of this in some type of a good way is to be with Christ, because that's the only way. That's the only one who has your good interest, your better interest at. The rest of the situation, the world and all the deities and the gods, they don't have your best interest at all. Their intentions and motives is clear. They're going to send you to hell with them. They're not empowering you for nothing. No, loving you. No. Christ will come get you where you are with nothing, with nobody loving you, nobody wanting you, no one, and he will still love you. He will still be there, and he will still, you know, pick you up and nurture you, feed you, clothe you, back to health. Yes. But the rest of these, they're not going to do that. When you down, they're going to kick you. They're going to spit on you. They're going to make it worse. They're going to exploit you. They're going to do it. This is what this is about. So we have to pay attention to what is going on. But I'm going to end this because this one is kind of long. And because I'm nosy, which, you know, and I be asking God, like, I don't need to be too nosy, but bruised and not broken. I want you guys, I hope that this message was helpful. And because these are questions that I be asking God myself, but please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, this is for people who do not have to pay, who do not know all these type of things. And they be wondering, well, where did they get this from? And where did they get that from? And all of that. They have the Apocryphas. Those are extra books in the Bible people don't know about. They have the Ethiopian Bibles. They have all these different stuff along with the Bible that are stuff that they've taken out. But I would advise you to start at the basics in the beginning, which will be when I be starting, I usually start in Genesis and I do Matthew because I like to kind of read them both at the same time. But as a new believer, someone who just read the 4 or 5 books of the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those is where you need to start as new believers. And just ask God to help you, and he will, you know, take care of you and help you. And if people need to be saying or words need to be said, you pray to God and he will answer your prayers. The things you're asking him secretly, he will answer them. Whether somebody come along, you're having a conversation, like I said, he will reveal himself to you, but you got to draw nigh to him so he could draw nigh to you. So I love you guys. I'm about to try to get in here, give you some more tea and stuff. And like I said, bruised and not broken. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope that this is a blessing to someone. Love you guys. Be blessed. Later.